This is VOA News. Reporting by remote, I'm David Byrd. Steve Bannon, a longtime ally to former President Donald Trump, has been indicted on 2 counts of contempt of Congress after he defied a congressional subpoena from the House committee investigating the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. We get more from AP's Sagar Meghani.
The Justice Department says Steve Bannon faces 2 counts of contempt of Congress for refusing to appear for a deposition and failure to provide documents. The House panel investigating January's Capitol insurrection had summoned Bannon and demanded the documents. Former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has now defied a similar subpoena. The committee's chair says he'll recommend contempt charges next week. Trump has claimed executive privilege over what the panel's demanding, delaying the attempts to gather information. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The COP26 talks on climate change will continue Saturday after negotiators failed to reach agreement on the text of a final statement aimed at reducing greenhouse gases. Prime Minister Boris Johnson of Britain said he believed that the delegates were very, very close to a final agreement. New wording to a draft agreement on Friday called for countries to accelerate the phase-out of unabated coal power and of inefficient subsidies for fossil fuels. The draft text also fleshes out a call for developed countries to at least double their funding for adaptation, helping at-risk nations face climate impacts by 2025. Delegations from 197 countries are trying to agree on a deal to combat climate change and keep global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, the target agreed to in Paris in 2015. For more on these stories and the rest of the day's news, visit our website. This is VOA News. A Los Angeles judge on Friday ended the conservatorship that has controlled pop singer Britney Spears' life and money for nearly 14 years. In her ruling, Judge Brenda Penny said as of today the conservatorship of the person and estate of Britney Jean Spears is hereby terminated. Jubilation erupted outside the courthouse with fans cheering and shouting after the decision was announced.
It is official. The conservatorship of Britney Spears has been terminated.
The decision capped a stunning odyssey that saw Spears publicly demand the end of the conservatorship, hire her own attorney, have her father removed from power, and finally win the freedom to make her own medical, financial, and personal decisions for the first time since 2008. The White House says President Joe Biden and China's Xi Jinping will hold their much-anticipated virtual summit Monday evening. The leaders are looking to dial back tensions after a rough start to the U.S.-China relationship since Biden took office in January. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says Monday's summit is a chance for the 2 leaders to talk, but not to make any big announcements.
I wouldn't set the expectation, I should say, that this is intended to have, major deliverables or outcomes.
Biden is expected to stress that the 2 nations need to set guardrails in areas of deepening tension in the increasingly complicated U.S.-China relationship. White House officials said that no major announcements are expected to come from the meeting. The Gulf nation of Qatar has agreed to represent the United States in Taliban-run Afghanistan. We get more from AP's Ed Donahue.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. will have a protecting power.
Qatar will establish a U.S. interest section within its embassy in Afghanistan to provide certain consular services.
The American embassy in Kabul is closed, and this is a sign there is no intention to reopen it soon. All U.S. forces got out of Afghanistan in August. What about the Americans who are still in Afghanistan?
All U.S. citizens who have requested assistance from the United States government to depart Afghanistan and who we have identified as prepared to depart and having the necessary travel documents have been offered an opportunity to do so.
An agreement signed with Blinken's counterpart formalizes Qatar's role as a main transit hub for evacuees. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Stocks closed broadly higher on Wall Street Friday, but still marked their first weekly loss in 6 weeks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.5%. The S&P was up by 0.7%, while the Nasdaq rose 1%. Reporting by